Mark Atwood, how are you? It's such a great pleasure to have you doing a video with you.
Well, thank you, Nicholas. You too.
Yeah, great. I saw your video the other day, your poem that you did, and I thought that was really, it was very humorized. I really liked it.
Oh, well, I'm glad you saw the humour in it. Yeah, so I've been quite amazed by the feedback on that. It's been lovely and very nice of Charlie to put it on his channel. I think he's had like 30,000 views, which for a poem, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So Mark, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
How old do I look? I'm drinking hydrogen water.
I
That
would
tells you
say,
how old I am.
I would say around late 40s, 50, around there.
Yeah, I'm 51.
Okay. And when did you find, this is really interesting. When did you find out, when did you start waking up and started, coming to the conclusion that we're actually enslaved by globalists? When did you actually wake up and think, shit, this is happening?
Well, it actually started in 1990 for me. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, I was I'd been in the RAF and I'd put it. The short version is that I started to question who I was working for, and I started to question war. So I was being trained to kill people. At the same time, I was writing poetry. Funnily enough, so I just I think the real trigger for me was when one of my friends committed suicide flying a plane, and I had to pick the pieces up of the airplane off the beach, and I was like the first other pilot on the scene, and it was this. I think it was the same evening. It was one night in the mess where all the other guys were basically taking the piss, and it's called gallows humor, right? So they were all saying, "Oh, look, Mark's ghost is here," and I'd be like, "What the fuck?" And I was in the corner with my mate Joe, who's now quite a famous wine expert, and I just stood in the corner going, "What is going on here? This isn't human." And it sort of triggered. I was going through my own emotional shit anyway because I'd had to turn my dad's life support machine off, and that because he had a brain hemorrhage at the age of 37, and I was 17 when I turned it off because they had to ask me to do it, and everything just blew up, and every aspect of I had to rebuild my whole personality and my whole thoughts on what the world was, and really it was just a combination of things, and I met Prince Philip, and I didn't like him at all, and he was supposed to be the commander in chief, and I got a very, very bad feeling from him. And then one day I just like, I'm leaving this, so I resigned before I finished my training and everything, and as I said, I was writing poetry, and that led me into working as a stand-up comic, as a theatre director, as a playwright, I had a couple of TV pilots and stuff like that. And during that period, which was I was skint, totally skint, but I had a great time. I got to know some amazing, amazing people. And during that period of time, I was actually writing I was influenced by Samuel Beckett and Harold Pinter, and I was writing quite existential stuff because I was just desperate to understand what the meaning of life was and what was going on in the world. And then one day, when it really kicked in, is one day in do you know Manchester at all?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you know the Curry Mile in Manchester?
Not really,
Well,
no.
Rusholme. There's this road in Manchester, in Rusholme, which is like just curry house, loads of curry houses, and it's fantastic food. I was in there with a Canadian stand-up comic, and we'd just done a gig together in a pub down the road, and he just handed me. He was talking back then. This was in 1999, and he was saying stuff to me like, what's on the front of the $1 bill, and I was like. And I'd lived in America for a year, and I'd never noticed. I was like George Washington. I never looked at it. And he said, well, he showed me one. He said, well, there's a pyramid there with a great eye above it, and it says order through chaos. He said, what do you think that means? And I was like, why is there an Egyptian pyramid on an American dollar bill? He said, yeah, that's right. And then he started telling me about him and his wife, how they'd set up this, how they were trying to build this communal place in Canada, which was like a self-contained community, underground homes, growing their own food, armed to the teeth because they said this shit is coming. It's coming, and it's going to be horrible. It's the New World Order. And I was like, the New World what? And then he started talking to me about symbolism. And then I got very paranoid. I started, I see symbols everywhere, have done for the last 21 years now. And I was walking around, I remember walking around Manchester, looking at the buildings, looking up at the architecture, going, oh my God, it's everywhere. It's all around us. It's like I was in London in February, just before the lockdown. I was in Camden, and there's the pub opposite Camden Tube Station is called the Camden Eye, and it's got the pyramid with the eye on it. And you go around the corner to Camden Market, and you've got this dog place market, and it's a great big fucking Baphomet. Satanism everywhere. It's everywhere. And then you look at the London Underground symbol, Saturn. It's Saturn. So, the symbolism really got to me. But he also gave me a copy of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Have you ever read that?
No. You have to educate me.
You need to read it. If you look it up online, you can download it for free. You'll see loads of stuff saying it's anti-Semitic and all of that. Just put that to one side, because we know that terms like anti-Semitism and anti-vaxxer and anti-blah, blah, blah are what they use to conspiracy theorists. These are the terms they use when they just they don't want to look at something.
They try to use that to censor David Icke, don't they, I think?
That's right. Yeah.
I started sharing David Icke before they banned him on London Live on television. And people were saying, oh, he's anti-Semitic, So I no, absolutely not. They haven't actually sat down and watched it themselves.
I've been going through that with Ike for years. I've had to get rid of loads of friends on social media over the years saying he's anti-Semitic. I said, you've never read one of his books. You can't say a word about him until you've read one of his books. I'm just looking for one here. I usually sit my computer on Trigger by David Icke. So the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, I recommend everybody reads. And you make your own decision, I can't be called an anti-Semite for the fact that I've read it, but that is allegedly the notes of a meeting in Russia from the 1820s, I think, from the Illuminati or the cabal, right? And it basically was a blueprint for the 20th century. World War I planned out, World War II planned out, World War III planned out, blah, blah, blah. So when this pandemic happened, the first post I put up on Facebook was, I've been waiting for this for 30 years because I knew this was coming. And if you read David's work, Ike's work, Truth Vibrations, written in 1998, he said about this time, 2018, 2020, and it's going to be a time of vibrational frequency change, which it is. I mean, I'm getting that massively. My YouTube channel now is all about looking into energy and entities and, all this stuff, because it's been a massive spiritual journey for me personally. And, if you've ever read the Celestine Prophecy, have you heard of that book?
No.
There's another one for your reading list.
You need to in the video once we've done this video.
Oh, yeah, there'll be quite a few. Yeah, you need a pen and paper. The Celestine Prophecy was given to me by a famous artist called Ruth Harley in Florida in 1994, I think it was. And she was like, Mark, you have to read this book. And I was like, okay, yeah, started reading it. I was like, what the this is amazing. And it's like how all of our lives are this series of events. And if you allow these, meetings and strange circumstances to happen, your purpose sort of unfolds before you. And life is actually beautiful and magical, right? And that's exactly what my life's been. I mean, it's been full of real highs and real lows, really, really real highs and real lows, and everything in between. I don't know, does that answer your original question was, when did you first start waking up?
I was actually thinking that you're quite lucky, the fact that you found out 30 years ago, because I think you was only about 20 years old, 21.
Yeah.
So you was pretty young and your brain was like a sponge and you was more open-minded in accepting things. Whereas somebody who's 70, 80 years old, of course, it does depend on character. But it's much, there's many more years of conditioning. And when they wake up very, very, very late, it's so much more difficult for them to accept it because of so many years conditioning. So, I'm the same. I found out when I was 17, 18. I'm in my early 30s now. And it's been all my life. For me, it's a normal that globalists have taken over and for many, many years. And when I tell my family, for me, it's a shock that they haven't woken up,
Well, it's a very difficult thing with family and you know, friends and stuff. It's very, very difficult, and you know, maintaining friendships when some people are still blatantly in the matrix, but they think you've joined a religious cult, you know, because that's the way we are pigeonholed by the media. You know, like QAnon is described as a right-wing conspiracy theorist cult thing, which is nothing could be further from the truth. And how do you explain that to somebody who is so? You know, I said it's a spiritual journey, but also I think one of the things I've discovered is that magic is real, and that they use magic and they understand magic. They understand, you know, my journey really, one of the pivotal moments in my journey was reading the works of Stuart Wilde, who was an incredible, you'd have loved him if you've not heard of him, a really funny guy who in England in the swinging 60s, he made millions in his 20s selling jeans. This is when jeans became a thing, right? Okay. And at the age of 28, he threw away his Chelsea flat keys, his Rolls Royce keys, and he just walked the earth for the next 40 years. And he wrote this book called The Infinite Self. And can't remember why I'm telling you this now. What was it? So many things that he taught me. So it became a spiritual thing. And he was doing things like ayahuasca in the 60s and the 70s. And ayahuasca, I've done ayahuasca. I've been down all of these paths to try and work out what's going on. And really, you have to come to the conclusion, this is consciousness. This is a war on consciousness. And we have been turned into a farm. And we've been living in a farm, and our ancestors have been in a farm. It's interesting you say about the older people, because my granddad died during the pandemic, and I had to watch his funeral on Zoom like this, which was fucking, I'm actually really fucking annoyed about this, but I've contained it because there's bigger fish to fry at the moment. But when my anger comes out about that, that's going to be an almighty rage, because these people have a lot to answer for, And, you know, and the reason why he died is because he couldn't understand why he was imprisoned. You know, he was 91 years old, and he was not allowed out of his flat in the sheltered accommodation. And so they ended up, now I don't know exactly what happened to him, but you know, he died because of this. You know, he probably had another 10 years in him. He was a very fit.
But you reckon that he died out of stress and depression and...
He just gave up. He was like, I don't want to be here. I mean, it's just horrible, horrible end to a life. But when I spent time with him, every time over the last 10 years, I'd say his proudest moment in his life was being in the Navy in 1946. And he was part of a royal tour, where the young Prince Elizabeth and the young Prince Margaret were on the ship. And he was on the ship with them for like 3 or 4 months. And they went down to South Africa, and he'd often, you know, get his books out and he'd show me this stuff. And I'd say, Pap, I used to call him Pap, right? I'd say, Pap, you know, the Queen is like really evil. And he'd just go, yeah, well, anyway, here's another picture. And it was like, so I didn't go there. You know, you have to pick your battles, really. Because when you're probably the same as you, I've studied this stuff, tens and tens of thousands. It's like doing a quadruple PhD. Right. And, you know, people say, well, prove it, show me. Well, it's like, well, you know, I've got shelves full of books. I've read, you know, I discerned stuff, and I follow people. And you get to the point where you're the one that's put pieces of the puzzle together yourself, and you haven't written a book to prove it all yet, but it's all there. And it's such a complicated thing. I was just on the phone, you know, I was a bit late getting to you today, because I was just on the phone to a really good friend who said she was watching an interview I did yesterday on YouTube with a guy in Australia called Byron. And she said, it was a really interesting interview, but I just had to stop listening halfway through, because I just couldn't cope with what you were talking about. Because we were talking about the satanic tunnels in networks in Australia, and all the children that have gone missing, and the kids being rescued, and all of that stuff combined with the esoteric stuff. Not many people can contain this information and get on with their daily lives. And when I've seen people waking up in the past, which has been brilliant. I mean, what I'm really amazed about during this year is how many young people there are who are awake. I mean, that's hope for the future, because it's very hard to enslave a population, or continue to enslave a population that knows what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. I think if the right person is open-minded, I think it's actually easier for a younger person to see things and learn new things with a bit of an open mind because they're not set in their ways. But it is about character fundamentally, you know, whether is as to whether you're ignorant or not ignorant, you know.
Well,
And on,
it's interesting. I said this to my mum the other day. I said it's nothing to do with age. She said, "Well, we weren't educated the same way you were." I said, "It's nothing to do with age. David Icke's almost the same age as you. Look at him. It's not. It's not actually to do with age." But what's amazing to me about the kids that are waking up is that they've had a much heavier indoctrination than I had. So a lot of these kids who are under the age of 20 have had 30 vaccinations. I had one.
well, when you're talking about vaccinations, absolutely.
They've had digital TV, which is hypnotic. It hypnotizes you. They've been bombarded with shite music, with that fucking demon Simon Cowell bullshit, right? Which is full of the wrong frequencies and demonic shit going. They've had all of that thrown at them, and they're still waking up, which is amazing, right?
I think that this is a spiritual war, and when Donald Trump says that he's draining the swamp is so deep and so demonic that when the swamp is drained, the atmosphere and the paradigm will be shifted, and automatically we will be rejuvenated spiritually, and we will have this awakening and higher consciousness. And I think that's what's happening. That is the shift that we're going through. Apparently we're 2/3 in the way.
Well, it feels like that to me, and I've always felt optimistic. I do feel very optimistic about the outcome. I've been trying to work out for years what this 5D thing actually means. Hence, ayahuasca, peyote, mushrooms, retreats, meditations, breathing exercises, healers, mediums, everything. I've done everything, right? Just to try and get out of the left brain into the right brain, and then try to work this stuff out. And speaking to people like you is a spiritual thing in and of itself, right? So, you know, it's also why I've started a YouTube channel as well about this stuff that I've never been public about before, because it's time. It's time, and it's time to stand in your power. It's time to walk into the supermarket without a mask on, with a protective shield around you, because you are righteous, you're doing the right thing, and you're showing courage to the other people. The other people will look at you like, what's he doing? What's he doing? You know, they won't be here. I really think the shift is real. And Trump said at the beginning of the pandemic, he said, when this is through, it's going to be like a burst of light. And he repeated it, like a burst of light. Now, if anybody watching this doesn't know what the pineal gland is, that's where DMT happens, right? So that's where your dreams and visions come from. And if you are not aware of this and yours isn't working, it's probably because you've been brushing your teeth with fluoride or drinking the tap water your whole life. Stop doing those things immediately, right? Start eating watercress, organic vegetables. This will decalcify your pineal gland, and you will start to tap in to the source energy of the universe, to the Akashic record. And you will be given visions. You will see things that are extraordinary, absolutely magical and extraordinary things. That is consciousness, and that is the other dimensions. We have been in a dimensional prison for thousands of years. We are not living the way that humans are supposed to live. Humans are beautiful, kind beings, creatures that just want to get on with their lives and enjoy life, right? That doesn't happen. War, famine, hunger, the financial system, everything is designed to keep you in your little trap, because they are literally feeding off us. They feed off an energy called loosh, which is emitted when you are in a state of fear. They feed off you, unfortunately, they feed off our younger ones, literally feed off them, right? Which most people can't contain in their head. Most people can't hold that. They don't believe it. You know, if you say there's 8 million kids go missing every year worldwide, at least, most people are like, what? That's not possible. If there were, it would be all over the papers. And I'm like, well, you know, McFly, that's the, where'd you go with that? You know,
they don't understand that the globalists, they need to get in their heads that the globalists are the ones that they own the mainstream media. They own what they put in slave food. They own the farmer. They suppress great things like what Charlie Ward said to me about Bill Gates, patenting a lemon because it's 400 times stronger than chemotherapy, the unwaxed lemon. you know, so they suppress them so they can make the money off the farmer and kill us slowly and enslave us and close the pineal gland so we have no access to vision and this spirituality that we're supposed to have as human beings.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That you summed it up. But one of the issues that people have is they go, yeah, we know politicians lie. We know that corporations are greedy and they're just in it for the money. They're not just in it for the money. There's a much bigger thing going on here. This is the end times. This is Revelations. This is good versus evil. This is the time to choose your side, which is what I heard beautifully chanted in London last week when I was watching the videos of the protests. Choose your side, because this is the time. And, you know, and I say this as somebody who was an atheist for 20 years. I'm not. God is real. God, this is really happening. The good and evil are real things, right? That's the thing that I can't understand. People can't see. And I cannot believe, and I don't want to call them sheep or anything like that, because they need our compassion. You know, even saying they need our compassion, they might think that's divisive language, but you know, people are going to need compassion. They're going to go through a massive, massive trauma. The doctors, think about the doctors and nurses, when they realize that everything they were trained to do was wrong and they were actually killing people. I mean, what's the second biggest cause of death in America? Is medicine. It's like, what? And people can't hold these thoughts together at the same time in their heads.
We don't realize that we're the globalists are killing us. Number one, from pharma.
Well, the pharmaceutical industry, man, just go back to look up Bayer and look at Bayer's role in the Second World War. I mean, and then look at Ford, and the concentration camps were built as slavery farms. They were slavery farms, and you know, they got, you know, there's no such thing as countries. People, oh, the Americans are so bad because of this, and aren't countries a brilliant way of dividing people? Apart from all the other brilliant ways they have of dividing people, like now it's mask wearers versus non-mask wearers. So I just heard yesterday that apparently there's a protest against people who are against masks going on in Dublin. I'm like, what? You know, you couldn't. And, you know, I think it was Huxley said, it will be a medicalized tyranny that's coming, and the enslaved people will relish their enslavement. You know, and if the people are out there actually marching for masks, it's like, what the fuck is going on? You know,
I mean, Mark, what is the death rate in total now? What's the number for the COVID-19 now?
I have a very good friend called Ben Hunt, who I interviewed on my channel, who's brilliant. Anybody, go and look him up. Ben Hunt, what's it called? Humans Unleashed. And he's been following all the statistics, and, you know, pretty much every day he puts up a graph. He's phenomenal at pulling. I know that this is bullshit, so I've not really been that interested in the death rate, but it's very low.
No, the reason why I ask is obviously even Sky News has reported that the numbers have been exaggerated. People know that.
Yeah.
Now, let's just put that to one side for a minute. Now, if we look at the death rate, it's very, very, very little. I don't even know the number exactly, but it's very, very little. Now, 1% of the whole population on the planet, 1% would be about 750,000. That's 1%. It's 1% of 1% or lower, the death rate. And people think it's a pandemic. That really boils my blood. And then I'll go into the post office earlier today, and they say to me, "Excuse me, where's your mask?" But I go into a pub and I don't have to wear a mask, and I can sit around loads of people buying drinks.
That's because the virus is very clever. It doesn't like food. It doesn't like alcohol, but it loves post offices.
Yeah,
it's a very clever virus.
I know.
It's genius. I mean, it's the cleverest fucking organism on the planet. It likes Tuesdays sometimes it likes Sundays. I mean, they're taking the fucking piss.
If the mainstream media never told us anything about this COVID-19, I would have no clue with what's going on. I wouldn't even know that there was a virus. That's how deadly the virus is, and that's how dangerous it is. It's, you know, it's as if they go on as if people are dropping on the street, you know, and we're seeing them dead, as if it's the Second World War or something.
Well, if they keep wearing the masks, they are going to be dropping dead in the bloody street. I mean, it breaks my heart. I mean, I'm livid at the moment because my kids have gone back to school this week. And I got a letter from the headmaster yesterday saying, well, the kids are not doing, that some are doing well, but some of them are not doing well, and they're not taking this mask very seriously, and they're endangering all of us. You must sit down with them and make sure they take it seriously. And I'm like, so I said to my girls, I said, right, Dada is going to write a letter to the headmaster of this school, and I'm going to point out the fact that everything he's just said is bollocks, and I'm going to do leaflets outside the school to all the parents to show them these are the actual facts and statistics that you need to understand. You know, like the government websites downgraded it to a totally nothing to worry about in March. So why are we wearing masks now? You know, and then these masks are, what, I mean, it's no less than child abuse, right? The only reason my kids are at school at the moment is because they really, really want to see their friends. And every morning I pack them off and I'm like, look, you understand. And then basically the reason why I haven't done it yet is because they're already embarrassed enough by me doing poems on YouTube, right? So, so, you know, I've got to take their feelings into consideration, because at the moment it's terrible, but you know, is it a battle I can win? Probably not. I'd probably get me spat at down the street. Do I need to do that right now? No, I don't. My kids are okay right now, but my God, if this goes on for much longer, and I'm not the only parent who's going to just go.
I don't have children. So I would like to ask you, first of all, how old are your children? What age group?
10, 12, 13 and 16.
So the 16-year-old might be more, obviously a bit more mature to have a leveled conversation about these things. Now, what do you say to a 10-year-old? And is it a boy or a girl?
Well, the two 10-year-olds are twins. They're boys.
Oh. So
well, you know, look, they're still living in magic land, right? So I try to keep the magic alive. We play and, you know, we laugh about stuff. They know what I think about the world. They've grown up with me for 10 years. And their mother thinks similar to me about a lot of things. We're not together, but she thinks, you know, so I know that we didn't vaccinate them. They're in good hands with her and in good hands with me. And that, you know, they're getting this, you know, this worldview, and they're just putting up with it because they're hanging out with their mates. And you know, on balance, they've just spent 6 months hardly going out. You know, their mates haven't come out to play. It's been really sad. What a waste of a year for a child. When I was their age, I was up trees in the damp. You know, I was causing trouble everywhere. And they've been sat. Most of the kids have been sat in on their bloody PlayStations and Xboxes, which is, you know. But this is why the world has to change. It doesn't work. It's broken. All of the technology, everything is designed to make you live a really miserable, separated life. I mean, social distancing. What? It doesn't make any sense.
And like you said, the fear, the harvest of the fear. We are lonely. We are stressed. We are depressed. That's what they want. This energy.
They love it.
Divide and conquer. You know.
Did you see? Sorry, Nicholas. You were going to say something.
I was going to say, I just want to go back a little bit, because you said something really interesting. You said that you haven't vaccinated your children.
Say that again.
You have not vaccinated your children?
No, my first son was vaccinated once, and then we were really, the pressure that was on my wife to do the vaccinations was huge, and thank God she's a strong woman, and she said no more. And then she researched it, and she's an incredible researcher, and she looked into it, and we both looked in. She went into the stats more than me, but I just knew instinctively that these things were wrong. And
the reason why I ask, Mark, it's really interesting. The reason why I ask is there's a lot of people going to watch this video, and I know a lot of people who are having babies right now and who have kids, and they're thinking, and they're awake, and they're thinking, do I vaccinate my children? Well, if I don't, maybe they will catch diseases.
It drives me mad. I mean, I've been going into this.
The children that you haven't vaccinated, are they safe? Are they okay?
Yeah, they're much safer than the ones who have been vaccinated. Right. I mean, first, the science doesn't make any sense, right? The whole thing is bullshit. The whole polio thing, that's the biggest excuse people say for vaccines working. It's all bullshit. Do the research. Don't trust me. Do the research. I've done the research. It's bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. Apart from that, this idea of, immunizing yourself, it isn't immunization, firstly. And secondly, if vaccines are so good, Why would you be worried about not being vaccinated or somebody else not being vaccinated? So none of it makes any sense, right? Apart from all of that, there's formaldehyde, mercury,
Yeah,
and other baby cells from other children. What the actual F why would you ever put that into anybody? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And when you understand that the big pharmaceutical industry, the corporations and everything else are run by an insane, psychopathic, satanic cult of Sabbatean monsters, possibly draconian, possibly alien in origin, or serving some dark satanic masters, once you understand that, you wouldn't do anything that they say. Nothing.
So you're very interesting. You said they put other babies' cells and probably alien cells. Maybe they
I
tried.
I didn't say alien cells.
I heard something like that from somewhere else.
But
But
that wouldn't surprise me, because the new vaccine, the Gates vaccine, changes your DNA, RNA. And if you look up, one of the things Epstein was doing that most people don't know about is CRISPR genes. Have you heard of them?
no.
So he was spending a huge amount of money trying to create a race of Epsteins for fuck knows why. I mean, an ugly bastard. But CRISPR technology goes in and rewrites your DNA. That's what he was working on. But
Right.
who's doing that for? They were all working on this stuff. They've got, the SS, the Operation Paperclip absolutely teared America apart. Everybody needs to do some research into history, because they never stopped Mengel's work on experimenting on children. A lot of these tunnels around the world and these dumbs are full of children, not just being used for sacrifice and sex and all that horrible shit. They're also being experimented on, right? They're trying to mess with the human race in such a way. We have to stop. We have to do something about this, because I'm done. I don't want to live in that world, right?
No,
I don't want to live in the world where everybody's like a fucking robot. Well, the thing is, it won't be everybody anyway. If you look at the Georgia Guidestones, it will be 500 million people. Robot. I mean, one of the really best interviews I ever saw that kind of summed this up was Aaron Russo, who was a film producer. He produced Trading Places, and he was Bette Midler's manager, and he made loads of cash, and he got invited to Nick Rockefeller's house, and then over dinner, Nick was talking about the human race, like useless eaters, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to put chips in them. We're going to take away cash. We're going to kill most of them that are no good, and then just keep the rest. And you're part of our club now. And Nick was like, "What? I don't want to be part of this club." And there's a great interview with him and Alex Jones from the early mid 2000s. And after he came out and said all this stuff, and he made a couple of amazing other documentaries, he died. What a surprise! Kel Surprise.
Yeah. I also heard that these, aborted babies, they use aborted babies and use them to preserve fast food and mix it with other meats. Is that correct?
No, there was an interview with a rabbi whose name I can't remember, who I heard it about 10 years ago. And I mean, it was so horrific. It still freaks me out. And I think he was telling the truth. He said, look, we take their babies, we grind them up into food additives, and then we put it in the food, and McDonald's and these food additives and all these companies, and we make them eat their own babies, because we laugh at them. And I was like, you're talking about me.
So huh? Is there a purpose? Is there a scientific or a spiritual purpose behind that for them, or is it simply that they laugh at us?
Well, I'm not one of them, so I couldn't answer that question. Ooh. But to what it seems to me, it's just like, look, we're making you eat your own babies, motherfuckers. They just take the piss out of us. We're nothing. Go back to my original statement. We are a farm. We are farmyard animals. We're below farmyard animals, and they hate us. But
what they do with the chickens when they kill, the way they torture animals.
And then we eat this food, right? So we eat those poor chickens and sheep and cows that are killed in such horrible ways, and then we're taking on that energy again, which causes us a state of anxiety, which then adds to the state of fear, which then feeds them more loosh. It's like a feedback loop.
It's like, it's all fixed so they can harvest off our energy.
100%. And I don't want to be on this farm. And I was saying to somebody the other day, there was a guy I was doing some work with, and he said, I'm not sure I want to be associated with that because, it's a bit, controversial. And I was like, well, you've got a choice. Either the good guys are real and we're going to win, or the bad guys are going to win. If the bad guys win, we're dead anyway. So you know, you're not going to have a company. You're not even going to have a life. So what are you worried about? The time to stand up is right now. The time to do your research is right now. The spiritual war is coming to an end, and you have to choose your side. You're either going to stand up and say, this is the right thing to do. This is the truth. And I'm going to live my life this way and focus on that timeline, that positive timeline, where we go into the golden age, where everybody's got everything they need. This is an abundant, beautiful planet. We live in peace and harmony. We are creating this, right? We're creating it. But we're creating it because we've created the bad timeline, because they've been pumping us with these signals for so long that we've created a version of the world that they wanted us to live in. And that's hence all the symbolism, right? So the reason why they've got Saturnic symbolism on every corporate logo in the world is because those symbols in and of themselves emit a frequency. That frequency comes into us, we create the universe. If you know anything about the law of attraction, then we literally create our own universe. But you've got to vibrate at the right frequency and make it. This is what I've always inherently known, and I've been clouded in my ability to do that to some degree because I've been so pissed off with them, right? Because I'm so pissed off. I don't want to live in a world where babies are eaten and where they steal babies and have sex with them. I don't want to live in a world where you can't eat a burger without eating a baby. I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in a world where I'm microchipped, where every single thing that I fucking do is scanned. I am a free man. I'm a free human. And you know, okay, if I'm wrong or you don't like what I'm saying and they come and kill me, fine. My spirit will be free and I'll have done the right thing. But this is the time. It's now.
Like you said, people have to choose a side now. And I think that if everybody knew the truth, everybody would pick the truth, unless you're one of them.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing about the children that I think is really interesting, because I do... What's going to unite us is the children, because there's not a single human being. Once they know the truth about what's been happening to the children, once they really understand it, I don't know how that's going to be communicated to them, but once they understand it, that will, you know, all this political bullshit, all this divide, all this racist bollocks that's going on, that will bring us together as a race. I hope.
I hope so too.
I pray every day.
I actually feel in my heart that this is written, this is prophesized. I'm not a very religious person, but I do believe in God, definitely. And I think this is not about politics, it's between good and evil. And after watching a lot from Mark Taylor, from his things that he's been told before, you're aware of Mark Taylor, right?
I don't think I am.
Oh, right. So I'll explain it quickly. So
you've got one on me now. I've got my reading list now.
You know what? Mark Taylor says that in 2011, he was sitting in front of the TV with his wife in his living room, and he saw Donald Trump in 2011, before even Donald Trump even thought about running for president. I think that was around that time. Now, he saw Donald Trump on television, and he said that he heard the voice of the Lord to say, the voice of the Lord. And this is where it threw me off, because I've never heard anything like this before. But what got me was the information that he was told before actually things happened. And he heard the voice of the Lord saying, you're listening to the voice of a president. And he was told lots and lots of things of what was to come, detailed things about looting, about rioting, everything that's happening right now. And a lot of people at the time thought he was crazy. And he used to be a fireman. He's a lot older. He's mature, a very humble man, lovely man when you watch it. His name is Mark Taylor. I'll leave the link below for everyone to see. Now, he done a video 2 months ago, and he got all of the scriptures that he wrote, that he was told, and he was explaining, in his opinion, what has happened up until now, and what's about to happen. And one of the things that he's waiting for, that is about to happen very soon, the whole world is going to follow Donald Trump. The whole world is going to believe him. And the mainstream media are going to agree with him. That's the only thing that hasn't happened yet. And he's protected by God. He's been chosen by God. And the information that got me interested, that he was telling or saying or claiming, was information that he had 10 years ago that haven't happened, and everybody thought he was crazy. And then those people that thought that Mark Taylor was crazy started telling him, you're a prophet because it's coming true. And he goes, no, he doesn't. Mark Taylor says, no, I'm not a prophet. He says, I'm not a prophet. Again, with the spiritual and godly things that he was saying, and he heard the voice of the Lord, again, that threw me off, but I'm open-minded and I'm wise enough to know I know nothing. So we have to keep open-minded. Again, what got me was the information that he was told or he had, and he wrote it down, and it all came to light, and there's still things coming to light, and it's great. I'm going to leave the link below into the description for people to see. So yeah, check him out. It's really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, as you started telling me, it started ringing a bell. I mean, you know, I've done nothing since the internet started. You know, I've worked on the internet, but I've spent maybe 3 hours a day on average looking up stuff for the last 20 years. So I probably did come up, but I'd really like to see that. Yeah.
You'll like it. Do you know what? It gave me a lot of peace and clarity, because we don't have to do. The only thing we have to do, in my opinion, after what I've learned, is we just have to love people and just help them wake up, and plant seeds in their heads if it's too early for them. But I think everything's under control. I think it's a spiritual war. God is behind Donald Trump because he's blessing us. I'm not saying Donald Trump's a prophet or he's the Messiah. I just think he's a man that and God is behind him and he's doing great work. But Mark Taylor thinks he's a prophet. But again, we don't know. I don't know. I don't want to go into that because it's very sensitive. A lot of people have different opinions about this. I'm not qualified to know or to make a judgment, but I do.
I think the days of being qualified are over, right? Those days are gone. They're behind us, man. You don't have to think like that anymore. It's like the only qualification you need is, are you? I mean, as you were talking, I'm getting this goosebumps, downloads. This is happening to me all the time. Everybody's got these abilities. You know, everybody's got the ability to connect to God, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it. And that's what this is about. It's a time of intuition. It's a time of inner standing, as Charlie Freak calls it, which I think is a very good word. Yeah. It's really, that's the only qualification you need now. I mean, if you look at some of the people that get picked to do this kind of work. I mean, David Icke, for example, was presented the snooker on the TV, you know, and there he is writing these incredible books over the last 20 years. And you look at Trump, you know, so most people think he's an idiot because he's like, well, firstly, he's a billionaire, so he must be one of them. And secondly, he was a reality TV presenter, you know. But actually, I just think God's got a sense of humor, you know.
Yeah, I think that Donald Trump has. Some people think, you know what, he's cocky, he's honest, he's sarcastic.
I love the way he talks.
I love it.
I love it. He's so funny.
I love it. I think he's funny. I love the guy. And I'll tell you what, right? I think he's got the perfect character, personality to bring that swamp down. Because no gentleman like JFK, who's a great man, I think he's too lovely to take someone like that down. And I think we need a man like Donald Trump. He's not up for sale. He's already a billionaire. He's given up his fruitful life and put his family in risk to do what he's about to do. And I think he wants recognition. And by all means, be it.
Well, I don't even know if he does want recognition. I think he's just doing it. He says he's doing it because he's got to do it. And
I'm not saying that he was doing it out of recognition, but I think at the very least he would maybe, I might be wrong again, maybe he would like to be recognized, because a lot of people think, well, he has an agenda. What does he want out of this? Or he must have been hidden. And I said to people, no, actually, he's doing something great for humanity. And I think at the very least, maybe he wants to be just recognized.
Well, you know, my daughter got in the car a couple of months ago and she said, Dad, Donald Trump's a paedophile. And I went, no, Donald Trump's getting the paedophiles and you would not be here if he wasn't president.
Absolutely, yeah.
And she's like, no, he's a paedophile. And I'm like, where are you getting this from? Give me your phone. No, I'm not giving you my phone. It's all Snapchat. It's all this information stuff. You know, this is the guy that started to stop child trafficking right at the beginning. The wall was all about trafficking. People say, oh, he's a racist because he's building a wall. No, he's building a wall to stop the trafficking, because the human trafficking is the biggest problem in this world. I mean, there's a lot of big problems, but it's the biggest problem people don't seem to know about.
Well, Mark, you know Barack Obama wanted.
Yeah. Oh, don't say that word. I hate that man so much.
I know, I do as well.
And I used to be a Democrat. I used to be a socialist. I was very much left. You know, I believed in him when he first got in, and it's like Tony Blair. We danced in the streets when Tony Blair got in because it was the first Labour government in years, and it was the end of Thatcherism and everything else. They were all fucking con tricks. All of them are liars.
Yeah. Well, it's what I was going to say is Democrat in Greek. It's a Greek word, and it means freedom, democracy, and that's why we would by default choose to be a Democrat. But they've hijacked the concept of democracy and they've corrupted it. Now, I was going to say Barack Obama wanted a wall, Bill Clinton wanted the wall, and George Bush wanted the wall. But Donald Trump's a racist now. He wants the wall.
Yeah, but they wanted the wall, but they never did it. They said they wanted the wall to get the vote, and then they just did what they wanted. What you said was interesting. It's not just correct, it's inverted. They invert everything, you know. The pentagram that they use, the right way up, is a powerful symbol. They invert it, you know. Everything's inverted. So everything's the opposite. And they accuse good people of the things that they do themselves, you know.
Even the cross, you know, the cross, they've taken the cross that Jesus died, and they've bent the angles and they've made it into a Hitler, into a, you know, the Hitler sign?
Oh, the swastika.
Yeah.
Well, the swastika is an ancient Hindu symbol from, I mean, that was inverted as well. I mean, it's all symbolism, it's all esoteric, it's all spiritual. How are you going to work that out when you're in the middle of shitting yourself? The quickest thing is turn off the TV, stop paying your license, start asking your neighbor if they need any help with anything, grow your own vegetables, stop consuming fluoride in the toothpaste, in the water, get a water filter, exercise in the nature every day, meditate. I'm not doing all of these things every day, but I'm doing my best to do these things every day, and I do my best to teach them to my kids. Hug everybody that you love, tell everybody that you love every day that you love them, look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm grateful to be here. I love you, love yourself, because you can't love anybody else until you do. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way, I mean in a deep way. And just remember what it is to be. Remember who you really are.
Yes.
Yeah?
Exactly.
That's what we're going to do.
Well, listen, Mark, it was a lovely talking to you. I love the conversation we had, and I would definitely love to do this again.
Yeah, sorry I ranted a bit. I've got the bee in my bonnet because of what's going on at the school at the moment. But
not at all, not at all. It was lovely. It was great. It was a very natural chit chat. I loved it. It was really good. Yeah.
Well, you know, you've got a high frequency, Nicholas, and you're doing some great things, and I hope you carry on doing it. And I hope to meet you in the flesh one day when we have the party at Charlie's when all this is over.
Oh, I would love to go to Marbella and stalk him. Yeah. We go with Lee. We'll go with Lee. He wants to.
Yeah, we'll go with Lee. He'll protect us.
Mark, thank you so much, and maybe we'll talk soon. Anyway.
Anytime. Thanks, Nicholas. Take care. Bye.